what's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Taylor, and you are listening to episode 60 of the Trauma Dump podcast. Woohoo! We made it to 60 episodes. I'm in shock. I'm in awe, and I'm so thankful to be here. If you don't know who I am, I'm Grace Lauren Taylor. I am the host and creator of this podcast, and today we are going to be discussing the topic of racism in healthcare with our very special guest of the week, musician and alternative soul artist, Organized Khaos. You can go follow Organized Khaos over on Instagram and TikTok. Their handle is at I Am OK Music. That is IAMOKMUSIC. And in our description, you can go check out their website and where to stream their music. Make sure you go check her out after the episode and support her for being on this podcast. And remember, if you'd like to share on the show, please message us in our Discord in the podcast participants channel along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. And just a quick disclaimer before we start, I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of these topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are in need of medical professional help, we have resources in our descriptions. The topics discussed here are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is always advised. Hey, if you're liking what we're doing here on the Trauma Dump podcast, don't forget to hit that like button and please subscribe for more amazing content. We post new episodes every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you want to support our podcast further and you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show. That really helps us out a lot. And if you feel compelled to, please share the show with your friends. It helps the channel grow and helping more people become trauma informed. Okay. Hello, Jada. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, like a quick disclaimer before we start this episode, I'd like to give this disclaimer that I'm not a licensed health professional. We're just talking about trauma to be informed about it and learn together and grow. So, people don't take what I say as gospel.
Hear you, feel you.
So today we're going to be talking about racism in healthcare, and I'm really excited to talk about this with you because it's something that I've been intrigued by. I know that there's definitely sexism in healthcare, but
A
I
lot of
have,
it, unfortunately.
yeah, I've experienced that, but I don't think I've ever experienced racism in healthcare. So I was really intrigued to uncover this topic with you because you wanted to discuss this. So before we get into this episode, I just want to give like quick rundown.
Yeah.
How would you like to be addressed going forward in this episode? Do you want to be referred to as Jada or OK or Organized Khaos?
You can call me Jada. We're talking about a little more personal things, so let's get personal.
Okay, before we start this interview, what are your pronouns?
Yes, of course. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. Are you comfortable with discussing your personal experiences?
Yes.
Okay, to make sure that I'm not crossing any boundaries and respecting your experiences, please feel free to interrupt me at any time if you feel uncomfortable. We can also take a break at any time. And if you don't feel like answering a question, please let me know. I'll skip it and we'll move on to the next question.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so can you share a personal experience with racism when it comes to your mental health?
Um, one of the biggest things is not being believed. Um, and because I am black and a woman, it's a lot bigger of a not being believed. Um, but saying I have ADHD and I'm autistic, they're like, "Oh, you're not autistic." I was like, Okay. Or you go, it's like it's I've heard a lot. It's harder it was it's harder to get diagnoses.
Mm,
Um, I am not formally diagnosed. I chose not to be. Um, I talked to about it with my therapist and like psychologist a lot, and like I've gone through testing. I was like, I don't want it on my file, um, because of the disadvantage it puts me at. Um, I don't tell doctors where I go when I go into if I'm going for a physical health issue. I don't tell doctors that I'm autistic, or have had any mental anything,
mm.
because they will instantly treat me like a child, and I'm already going in there and they're already going to treat me like I don't know shit. Um,
Why do you
it's just,
think it is that they treat people who have either autism or ADHD as if they're childish or they're immature?
and we're portrayed as such in media. Um, and I think because there's this, people are so used to seeing Black women as strong, and this kind of caricature that we are portrayed as, they're like they can't put two and two together, because, oh well, the media tells me Black women are like this, but the media tells me that autistic people are like this, so you can't possibly you
Mm,
can't possibly, um and it's frustrating, because when I was first trying to figure out what was going on with me, I was diagnosed with bipolar. I'm not bipolar.
hmm
I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I was given um, antipsychotics for a year and a half.
mm.
And then learning how often women, but Black women specifically, are misdiagnosed as bipolar when maybe they have ADHD or maybe they have autism, especially if they have both. It's frustrating.
Of course, it's frustrating. That it's tremendously frustrating. I got
It's like,
misdiagnosed when I was younger with bipolar disorder as well. And I do have ADHD. And they were like, oh, it's because you have such extreme mood swings. I'm like, I don't have extreme mood swings. What are you talking about? Because my mother actually does have bipolar disorder. And so it was like very weird to be told, you have bipolar too. I'm like,
yeah.
do
It's like,
I?
do I? And I was at such a fragile state when I was diagnosed with it. I just believed it
Hmm,
because I was really depressed at the time. Um, and I was depressed and I have ADHD. I'm not going to be all sad and gloomy days every single day. There are going to be days where I have a lot of energy and I don't know what to do with it because I have ADHD. um, and I'm just like, but yeah, there's a lot of days like I'll have a lot of energy and I was like, oh, well, people assume that's me being, manic.
mhm.
It would only last like a day
Yeah,
or hours of really high energy. And I'm just like, that's not bipolar.
yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I guess maybe. Because I do, I if I'm angry, I'm rageful. But mood stabilization is a part of ADHD and autism too. And it's just like it was they refused to look deeper. It's like, let me just give you something easy. Have you out my way.
Mm,
I've had therapists. And it wasn't racist comments. It was more so I've had to teach my therapist why something would make me upset. And I was like, ooh, I might need a black therapist. Um,
Yeah, it's really important to have a therapist who understands your lived experiences or has an idea of your lived experiences.
but
It's
yeah,
very
it's
important.
been a lot, and especially within the Black community, um, mental health has typically been taboo. It's only in more recent years that it's been more talked about and more accepted. But growing up, there's nothing wrong with my child. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing wrong with you. And
Oh,
that, ugh.
I kind
Mhm,
of experienced something similar. I'm a mixed race person. I know I don't look it, but I am it.
okay.
My grandparents are from Jamaica,
Mhm,
and my Mimi is Chinese and black, and then her husband, my papa, is black and white. And
mhm.
so they had four boys that were just copy machine ran out of ink, essentially. And so I'm the oldest child of the youngest son. So that's why I look like this. But
Okay.
my Mimi raised us essentially. And when I told her when I was younger that I got diagnosed with ADHD, she was like, "No, you don't have anything. I don't know it. I don't know anything about ADHD. You don't
Mhm,
got ADHD. You just need to go outside and go run around. You just need to get your energy out, and then you need to sit down and be still. She's like,
mhm.
you need to work on being still,
Be still.
meditate, meditate." It's like, Mimi, I can't. I can't. I don't know. It was something that me and my Mimi had a bit of contention about because I think still to this day, she's in her late 80s. She doesn't believe in mental disorders.
Mm.
The the ADHD she calls it.
The ADHD.
She's like, apparently all my grandchildren have ADHD. I don't believe it. It's like, yeah, they do. She's like,
They have it.
she'll just like suck her teeth and be like, anyway, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. And it's interesting to like bring out that of like lived experiences because people looking at me wouldn't think that I was raised in, a mixed race household
Yeah.
where I had a lot of different experiences around that. And with your experiences, how did they impact your trust and relationships with mental health professionals? Because you talked about a little bit earlier, got into it, like maybe I need a black therapist. How did you uncover that? If you could give us like a clear example, a story, take us
Yeah.
on a journey.
Oh, I'll take you on a journey. First time I went to therapy, I was 17. I 17, I'm not diagnosed with anything yet. Like not a zip, not a zitch. I thought my meltdowns were panic attacks. Like I fully thought my meltdowns were panic attacks. I thought they were anxiety. I thought it was all anxiety. And not to say I didn't have anxiety, but um, it was typically a meltdown once I finally learned the difference between the two. Um, and I remember there was a week. This was anxiety. It was a week in nearing the end of my junior year of high school, and I just had panic attack after panic attack after anxiety attack after anxiety attack after anxiety attack. Um, and I was stressed. I was stressed out of my fucking mind because junior, you gotta get your grades right because colleges and then I was in track and da 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 da, and I thought I was dying. Um, because I had like probably the anxiety attack of all anxiety attacks that I've worst one I'd ever had. And I thought I was dying. I called my mom and my dad and they didn't pick up. My brother picked up. He was like blowing up my parents' phone and they came and got me, took me to the hospital and doctor, after a whole ordeal said it was an anxiety attack. And said that she should probably be in therapy and da da da. Finally went to therapy. Um, the first therapy session, my mom was there.
That could be very terrifying. Your first therapy session and someone who could be causing you immense amount of stress is in the room with you. Like, how would you open up?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I lied my ass off.
Mm.
I lied my ass off and had to be go every week. Well,
Mm.
every other week, I think it was. There were some days I forgot to go because I was like, oh wait, I think I had therapy. Damn it. You know, unmedicated ADHD. Um,
Mm.
and I felt so often like he was judging me. And maybe it's because the first, encounter with this therapist, my mom was there, who was uh, at that time a root of a lot of things I was going through. Um, so I eventually was like, fuck this, I'm not going back.
Yeah, of course.
I
Because
just
that's a
stopped
bad
going.
experience.
A few months into it, I just stopped going. I remember telling my therapist about a situation I had with this boy, um, and how I remember the day it happened to. Because it was an ex. We were toxic, high school. And I was telling my therapist I finally just laid in on him. Like I went off, and he was like, "Okay, did you feel bad about that?" And I was like, "I'm saying it to you with a smile on my face, so now I'm thinking that you think that I should be feeling bad about it." I was like, "Oh my God, well maybe I should be feeling bad about it." And even like talking about it now, I think back and I'm like, oh, that was the autism.
Mm.
But I'm like, okay, wait. I was like, yeah, I did feel bad about it. I feel like I should feel bad about it now. Um, and I didn't go to therapy again until college. I was like, I was really trying. I was like, I want to find, I was like, not all therapists are like this. They can't be. It helps people. There's got to be a therapist that's good for me.
Mhm.
Started going, kept forgetting meetings. Because I was going in person, and then if you forget a few, then you have to start the process all over again. And then I was like, you know what? I don't have, I can't even, I'm not gonna do that. I kept forgetting to start the process all over again. And then I also have social anxiety when it comes to making phone calls. So it's like, try it again, like my junior year. Yeah, tried again my junior year. Found a therapist I liked on my campus. Was going, doing well. COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, COVID. Went home. Was not doing well. Was not doing well at all. I was actually diagnosed with bipolar right before COVID.
Mm.
Wasn't
So
bipolar.
that could like, because you were misdiagnosed and then you were given medication for something that you did need to be medicated for.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I was medicated for most of my college experience because I was on Lexapro.
Ooh, Lexapro. I was on Lexapro. Oh
Okay,
no.
can we talk about the withdrawal symptoms of Lexapro?
Girl. Oh.
Because I would forget to, re-up every once in a while, and I'd be like, oh, I forgot. Terrible.
Yeah. I mean, Lexapro is given out like I don't, yeah, it's like, oh, you have this, let me just give you Lexapro. I mean, it can cause nausea, dizziness, insomnia, increased sweating. Like the sweating is what really got me. Like
Yeah.
I was in theater and we
Mhm.
had to do jazz and ballet. And literally, I was sweating so much, like into my jazz shoes, that I had to keep getting new jazz shoes because I started wearing out the leather of my jazz shoes from the inside, not from the outside, not from dancing, but from the amount of sweat. And it was just so gross. And I felt so embarrassed. I was like, this is embarrassing. This is so gross.
No, I Train of thought, come back. Train of thought, come back.
We were
Uh,
talking about sweating, side
yes,
effects.
yeah. So I didn't have many side effects of Lexapro. Um, but I would, forget to take my, I would forget to take my pill, or I would forget to refill for days, and the withdrawals felt like death. It was like literally like I don't know how to describe it. It was like a brain zap.
Mm,
It's like you feel it from your brain all the way down your fucking spine.
yeah.
But I had to get off Lexapro so I could get on Vraylar. Um,
Tell me about that. I haven't heard of that medicine.
it is it's supposed to be like a combined medicine for people with bipolar, and kind of a mood stabilizer, but also um antidepressant. Um, Not antidepressant. Words are escaping me. It's like a mood stabilizer, but also like a um serotonin booster. So it's like trying to make sure you don't have the lows, but also make sure you don't have the highs. Um, I started having dissociative episodes while I was on Brailler. And I thought it was just the bipolar that they said I had.
Hmm.
I thought it was because I would miss a dose. And so when I told them, they upped my dose. When I told them I was having dissociative episodes that I hadn't had before, they upped my dose. Um,
And did that make it worse?
yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped taking Vraylar because my sister suggested it. She's like, I think the pills are making you worse.
Mm.
Um, like when I say dissociative episodes, I mean um, like a bad weed trip.
Mm. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah,
So you couldn't differentiate what was real, what
no,
was not real.
no.
Mm. And how did that impact your relationships?
My sister was terrified for me. Um, and I remember it was always so frustrating because I'll go and be like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go, on this little trip, and she'd be like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" And I know she meant well,
Hmm.
and she was scared for me because of she'd witnessed some of the episodes not many people had. Like I was like, I remember ending. I remember being on the floor, and I didn't even know how I got there.
That's terrifying. That's
And
terrifying.
no, yeah, very. Um,
And once you got off the medication, because you stopped it yourself, did you talk to your doctor or about it or your psychiatrist about it, or did you just stop?
I just stopped. I was like, fuck this shit. I know how to wean myself off on a medication. I've done it before. So I weaned myself off the medication.
Mm.
And it felt like I finally got my mind back. Um, like those years, so many people were like, you seem like you're so, it slowed my mind down. I could barely form a thought sometimes.
Hmm.
I don't know how the fuck I graduated on that fucking medication.
Girl.
Um, I was not me. I got off that medication. I was like, oof, like the millions of thoughts that are always in my head, the constant, music playing, it all came back after a while, and I was like, and that's when because I got off of it when I decided to get off of it is when I was like, maybe I actually do have ADHD. I've talked to therapists who are like, I think you have ADHD. I think you have ADHD. I think you have ADHD. And I was like, you know what, fuck it. If I have ADHD, this medication is not fucking gonna help me. It's actually making me worse. It could be ADHD and not bipolar. Got off the medication. Didn't have any type of manic anything.
Mm.
Like that was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Um, my mind went back to where it was. I felt free. And I realized I had been medicated for the past 5 years of my life.
Mm. So you've never been medicated for ADHD specifically?
Mm-mm.
That's honestly a blessing because I've been medicated for ADHD from the age of 8 to I think 22.
Oh.
And girl, it was not fun. Adderall, it's an appetite suppressant. I was skinny, skinny, and it hurt to eat. It
Mm.
like physically hurt to swallow, it hurt to digest anything. It's like meth. It is like meth. And I remember because I had ADHD, my mom would overdose me sometimes. Whenever I had a test, she would give me double my dosage
Mm.
so that I could do better on my test or study harder. Had kind of the opposite effect on me. I was just hyper fixated on literally anything and I couldn't get my mind off that. So if I wasn't hyper fixated on my schoolwork, it would be my
Mm.
pencil. It'd be like looking at all the little details of my pencil. And honestly, it's a blessing that you didn't have to experience that medication because ADHD medication is like a whole ridiculous thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I never did the ADHD medication thing. Um, I I think how it's impacted me is I'm almost afraid of medications now.
Mhm.
Um, I don't trust it, which sucks because some medications are really could probably actually really help. I don't trust it. I I've had a few medications that I was taking regularly. I think at that time I was also taking medication for my migraines, which was great. Just I was also an appetite suppressant. Um, like I ended up so small, and they're like, "You need to eat food, or we're going to admit you." And I was like, "Guys, this is forcing food, forcing yourself to eat when
Yeah.
your entire body is like is the most I hate that shit. Hate that shit.
Yeah.
Uh, it's it's just frustrating. It's just fucking frustrating because I look back sometimes and I'm like, I wish I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known before.
Mm.
Most of my life I thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
And
And looking back on that now, how do you feel about yourself and your ADHD and your autism? How does it impact your sense of self?
um now I don't know, I see it all as one and the same. I'm me. I am autistic. I am ADHD. A lot of parts of my personality are also entwined with some of my ADHD symptoms and autistic symptoms. I don't really separate it from myself anymore.
Mm.
I give myself a lot more grace. I'll say that. There are times where I do truly feel like there are times when I was younger where I really truly felt like I was insane. I felt like if I even had known it was a meltdown, or, I was, having a ADHD rage, situation, I would have given myself more grace. Um, I'll have a meltdown now, and shit, meltdowns are I'm in a very vulnerable space. I hate them. I give myself more grace though, and that's something.
That is something. That is something to be proud of yourself for. Do you openly talk about your ADHD and autism with your friends and other people that you interact with?
Yeah. My friends know. Um, my I don't talk about it much with my family.
Hmm.
Uh, they don't agree. They agree with the ADHD, because it's been a running joke in my family that we all have ADHD. Um, it's not a joke. It's rampant. It's everywhere. um, they don't agree with the autism, and I see it in a few of them.
Mm.
So I think a I think accepting that I'm autistic would require them to realize some things about themselves,
Hmm.
that they don't want to. So we'll
Yeah.
have.
Do you think that part of it could be a bias against autism towards, your Black family feeling like autism would make them be perceived as dumb or stupid or other?
um, I think it's I think there is bias. I don't think it's a dumb or stupid or other bias. But I think it's a misinformation around what autism is. I think because when we think of autism, a lot of people who aren't educated on it typically think of, that little kid that only talks about trains and has a meltdown over every little thing. Um, and there is an autistic kid out there like that, and they're valid. And but autism is not the same in every single person.
Hmm.
My special interest is the arts. Because my special interest is the arts and it's something that is perceived as more socially acceptable, they're not going to clock that. A little girl who is just creating and making dolls and, sits in her room and just paints and sings and writes and, dances and, a little girl and looks up at 10 years old, knows about copyright law. Because she writes her own songs. And that is, I'm like, okay, that's a socially acceptable special interest to have. And then this girl who's, seems very bossy. Okay, we love it. We love a queen. I would, be like, all right, I need to have things this way, this way, this way, and this way. Can you do that? If you can't do that, find me someone else who can do that. And like, okay, yeah, she's ambitious. She's a leader. It's like, no, I just need things in my particular way.
Hmm.
um, so I would sway back and forth a lot. And my brother used to make so much fun of me for it. It's like, why are you swaying? Stop swaying. Um, and I was just, didn't realize it was I was stimming at the time, but it was just me stimming. Do 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 do. Never stopped moving. Was always zit 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 zit. They used to call me Scary Movie as a kid. Um, I would often get distracted by things while we were walking as a family. I'm the youngest, and I would stop. They're still walking and stare at the thing,
Hmm.
and I'm so enamored. And I'd sometimes walk away. In Scary Movie, they called me Scary Movie because they'd say I was to be the first one who would die in a scary movie. Because I would get,
Oh.
my sister had to watch me everywhere we went. Like,
Mhm.
where's Jada? Where's Jada? Where did Jada go? ADHD kid. But it's just the autism aspect is like it, there's things that you don't really attribute to autism. That is autism. Um, what I thought were anxiety attacks, what I thought was anxiety and panic attacks, I was having meltdowns. And then I was like, well, yeah, I get anxiety when there's these certain sounds that I don't like, when, things get me too much and I'm overstimulated. I'm like, that's not an anxiety attack, babe. That's a meltdown.
Mm.
um, I used to hate certain lights and I used to hate certain textures and if there was a tag on my shirt, I'd rip it off. Every Simon Gold shirt, if there was a tag on it, I would rip it off. Um, but as a black woman, you're taught to be very presentable. So everything that I wanted to internalized.
Mm.
Um, and then there's also the fear aspect because you act up and you're out and you're around people who you're if I have a meltdown in the middle of the street, I'm going to jail. They're not going to help me.
I laugh, but that's so real.
Yeah.
That's so real. They're not gonna help you. They're gonna send you away.
If I have a meltdown in front of a cop, that terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the possibility of having a meltdown in front of a cop terrifies me because I know I wouldn't survive it.
Hmm. What changes and improvements do you believe are really necessary to address racism when it comes to, the police and mental health?
It's it's hard because I don't even know how to. I don't know how to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a hard question because there's a
hard
lot of changes that I believe need to be, you know, addressed.
because even
Um,
think of Sonya Macy,
Mhm.
that was supposed to be a wellness check.
Yeah. I watched the body cam footage and I cried.
How do you? That was supposed to be a wellness check. And then I'm just
It's devastating, it's horrendous, it's horrible, and there was no reason whatsoever. So ridiculous, so ridiculous. And there's no reason. And it's honestly, she clocked his spirit though. Before she went to God, she clocked how horrible of a person he was.
and then there are stories. I remember this one story where this girl, her dad was about to commit. He was about to commit suicide, and she called the police, and they killed him.
Mm.
And it's just like, okay, you are not mentally well, you get shot. You're black, you get shot. You're black and not mentally well, you get shot.
Yeah. Which is, there's no rhyme or reason other than racism, other than prejudice, other than people not being educated, not being informed.
And I think it's insane. It's insane how if you are a cis white man who goes and shoots up a school, you'll get walked out of there and get some freaking Burger King, and they'll slap the label of mentally unstable.
Uh, Yeah. I don't know. I see a lot of people try to blame mental illness for just horrible behavior, and then a lot of people not ho- keeping account of other people having mental illness and saying, oh, they're just behaving poorly, and like bringing that to something that's happened recently in my life. I do have severe like depression, and
Mm,
it's been like that for I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after witnessing my dad get in a terrible accident, which I
yeah.
won't get into, but witnessing the aftermath and witnessing the aftermath and witnessing, what it did to my family, I started having severe depression.
Hmm.
And I tried to commit suicide. And one of my guy friends, I told him, and he made sure to get me to the hospital. And I got to the hospital. And once I was released within like a week or two, he was bringing me back to my apartment. And my roommate was staying there, like, where were you? And I was just up front. I was like, oh, I was in the psych ward. She was like, what? It's like, yeah, I tried to commit suicide, but I'm gonna be okay. And we have like a plan put in place now. And she took that crazy.
What you
And
mean
so,
she took that crazy? I'm
girl,
sorry.
she started spreading rumors about me that I was homicidal, she started saying, oh, I don't feel safe. I think she's gonna murder me. And she like moved out of the apartment without telling me, without me knowing. I'd come home one day, all of her stuff is gone. I'm like, what the heck? And she spread rumors about me. So all of the people that I thought were my friends, not the guy who took me to the hospital, obviously, but all the people that were in our friend group that I thought were my friends basically abandoned me
Mm,
and ghosted me, said they wanted nothing to do with me. And so that was like 3 years ago. And then recently I tried making a friend group. And I'm a neurospicy human being. I'm neurodivergent. And I started noticing some patterns in people that were in those people that abandoned me. And I essentially clocked it. And they're like, no, no, we're not going to abandon you. Like, stop putting these things on us. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the best I can.
yeah.
And I was going to be a part of a coven, and the
Mhm.
girl who was organizing it hadn't texted anybody in over a week. And mind you, like, I'm gonna give credence, she found out that her dog had cancer, and
Mhm.
I felt really bad about it. So I thought, okay, what would I want if one of my friends found out that my service dog Gigi, who's laying on the floor, had
Oh,
cancer? What would I do? What would I
yeah.
want someone, how would I want someone to support me? And so I sent her flowers, I sent her dog treats, I sent her dog toys, and I sent her raspberries and blueberries,
Okay.
because that's what I would want, right? And then I text the coven, and I'm like, hey, I haven't heard from so and so, but in
Mhm.
a last stitch effort, I sent flowers and stuff. Can we still meet? And
Mm,
one of the girls took it as if I was trying to meet without this girl, which wasn't the case. I just wanted to still have friends and hang out
right.
with people.
Right.
And she sent screenshots of it to the girl who's obviously hurting about her dog. And this
Mm,
girl sends me 5, 6, 7 paragraphs about how I'm a horrible person and how I'm manipulative and gaslighting and controlling. And then she starts spreading it to other people and other people. And all in all, 3 people told me that I was evil and manipulative. And I'm like, ah, ah, what? Like, what? And they wouldn't let me call them to try and like say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this is being misconstrued,
yeah.
or solve this like adults. We're in our 20s and y'all
Right.
are acting like high schoolers. But they blocked me without me being able to call them to confirm. Like, after they sent me these giant text messages, they blocked me. And I was like, oh, what do I do? And so I started to spiral, and I got very suicidal again. because
Mhm.
it felt like I was being abandoned again. And no retrospect, it's good that they left. Those are not good people. I don't want them in my life. But I started to get suicidal and very self-harm. And um, I had to take a break from, podcast duties and social media duties and stop and reassess. And it was just so frustrating because all I wanted was to hang out with people and have friends. And
Yeah.
it was took taken and manipulated some sort of way, which was just so frustrating because I'm like, why can't we just like pause? Just pause, stop, stop, time out. I wish there was like a way that we could make timeouts like from, video games and football and everything. Just bring that into the real life and everybody say, stop, take a moment. Y'all are in your feels. That was not what I meant.
Mhm.
And just calm down and then come back once you're collected.
I
I
feel like
don't
that's
know.
you know how they say common sense ain't common?
Girl.
Um, this is a healed people are not common.
Mm.
People who want to see other people's side are not common. Um, there's a certain level of healed you have to be before you're at a point where like, oh yeah, I'll listen to the other person's side. And a lot of people would rather be toxic. A lot of people would rather, be like, I don't have time for this and turn away from somebody. And I feel like it's a neurodivergent kind of like thing where you look back at a lot of your friendships and relationships and you're like, oh wait, they didn't really like me.
Mm.
Um, oh wait, we weren't really friends. And I think for me, being autistic, it even hit it even like worse, like being looking back and be like, oh yeah, those weren't my friends. They were friends with my friend, but they weren't my friends. And it's like, oh, well, what about the? Nope, they weren't okay. Um, and I finally have a friend group now, that are my friends,
Hmm.
and
That's
I
good.
was like, wait, so this is what this feels like? I'm 25.
Yeah.
This is
I feel that. Yeah. I've been looking for that so hard. Ugh. I don't know. It'll come. It'll come in its due time.
you
It's
know.
just very frustrating, to get to that point where I was like, oh my gosh, I have a friend group. And I was so excited to have a friend group. And then
Mhm.
one miscommunication, blah, 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 they all go against me. I'm like, okay. And I was talking to my fiance about it, and he does have autism. And he was very frustrated by the
Mm,
whole scenario, very frustrated. And he was like,
very frustrating.
yeah, he was like, this could have all just been solved if they had just picked up the phone and heard you say, that's not what I meant, or just tried to clarify anything. And he's like, whenever I, you know, get confused about something, I try immediately to clarify it because I know sometimes I'll take something the wrong way, especially at work, because he's a plumber and he has to have clear cut instructions so that he can,
Mm.
you know, figure things out. He's like, they need to be concise, they need to be clear, or else I'm floundering. I can't figure it out on my own. And he's like, I don't understand why they're constantly trying to like find a weird, deeper meaning about you just being like, I want to hang out. And they're like, oh, you're trying to exclude this girl when clearly you weren't. You sent her flowers and stuff and she wasn't responding to you or your text messages. So what else were you supposed to do? Show up at her house and be a stalker? No. Like he's like he was so frustrated. And it felt so good to see someone like you know understand and comprehend on my level of like, this is frustrating. What the heck? uh
I relate to how he said his frustrations.
Hmm.
Because because I'm a very clear and concise person as well. It's like I need this, 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 this. If you don't give me clear and concise, it's not gonna be how you want it. I'm sorry. I had a boss that I was like, I need clear and concise, and she was like, she would just give me. I'm like, I don't think we're working well together. But it's just words are not wording today. But no, I relate to like the the kind of sense of justice aspect of it because I'm just like, okay, can't we just like sit? Can't we just like try to talk out what's going on? The why are you looking for hidden meanings in what I'm saying? There's no hidden meaning. I'm just saying what I'm saying. I'm saying what it is. But then also having that part of my mind, I'm like, well, maybe I should look for a hidden meaning because everyone else looks for hidden meanings. Like if someone's telling me something and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take you at what you said. But half the time when I do that, they're like, no, didn't you see the hidden meaning? I'm like, oh, well, fuck. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should look for a hidden meaning this time. Looks for a hidden meaning. I said what I said. Well, what the fuck do you want me to do?
Yeah, girl, I get that so much. I don't know. I'm a say what you mean and mean what you say type of person. There's no hidden meaning. If I don't like a person, I let them know I don't like them. And m my brother, he finds that so off-putting. I have two younger brothers. He finds that so off-putting that he's like, why don't you just like be nice to people? I'd be like, I am being nice. He's like, well, why did you just tell this person that you didn't like the way that they did that? Because I didn't like the way that they did that.
Right,
I didn't
right.
appreciate it. I didn't appreciate what they did or said. So I'm gonna be upfront about it. And he's like, well, this is why people don't like you. I'm like, okay, I guess people don't like me. That's fine.
Yeah. I've gotten to that point. I've finally gotten to the point where I don't really care if you don't like me. I really don't give a fuck. Um, it's freeing in a way. Because the second I was like, I really don't care anymore. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't.
Mm,
Fuck you. I really don't care. All right, you don't like me. All right, you don't like me unmasked. Then you're not my friend. Like I'm sorry that you are just now getting to know who I am. But if you can't accept that this is who I am, then you don't need to be in my life.
yeah, I get that. And I also understand if someone doesn't appreciate the way that I respond to something. And I always ask them, I'm like, okay, well, then how would you prefer I had responded to that? And a lot of times they're flabbergasted and they don't know how to articulate how they would
Mhm.
have wanted me to respond differently.
I
Um,
understand.
it's
Um,
frustrating.
yeah, most of the times it's been it hasn't been like a response, is more so my stems or they're like, I don't like you doing that. I was like, excuse me?
Mm,
It'll be I'm dancing, listening to music, dancing while we're walking to in the mall, and they're like, stop doing that. And that's family.
mm.
I'm just like, no. And they're like, "Ugh, no. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna keep dancing and being myself fully. Thank you.
Getting back into racism in
Yeah.
healthcare, how do you think mental health professionals can better educate themselves and their practices to be more culturally competent and sensitive?
Listen when Black people speak. That's one of the biggest things. Listen when people of color speak. Because the highest demographic of undiagnosed autism isn't even Black women, it's Latino women. Listen when women of color speak, because they refuse to. Like, don't make an idea in your head of what's going on before I finish my sentence. Listen to us speak. Listen to what we go through. Listen to what autism looks like in a black person and what autism looks like in a woman, what autism looks like in a black woman. Listen to what ADHD, what these things look like in someone who is not a straight white man.
Mhm.
Listen to the experience of the patients that you're working with. That's what I have to say. Because if you don't, you're going to continue misdiagnosing people. You're going to continue, there's going to be continuous people who need help who are undiagnosed. And there's going to be more people who end up dead, either because of suicide or because of a misunderstanding within their own, because somebody perceived them as a threat.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me upset.
I get you. I get you. It makes me upset too. What advice would you give to others who might be experiencing similar challenges in mental health care due to racial biases?
um, Try to find community, whether it is, in person or online, because online community is a community. Find community of people who, you know, have those similar experiences so you don't feel as alone. It can feel very lonely to not know what's wrong with you or what's going on. And it can feel very lonely when people are constantly telling you that your experience is not your experience. I think the biggest thing for me was finding community. And then don't give up. There are going to be people who say whatever and do, yada, yada, yada. Don't give up on yourself.
Mhm.
You have to fight for you. Because unfortunately, in this world, if you're not going to fight for you, who else will?
Mm. Do you have any resources or recommendations that you'd like to share with us?
Um, One of my favorite podcasts um, is Therapy for Black Girls. I'll play it in the morning and it helps. It's like, okay, we're talking about these issues. We're talking about these issues, not just, the ADHD and autism, but eating disorders, but, things and how they affect Black women. Um, they have a website too where you can go on the website and find Black women therapists in your area, which I think is a great, resource. Um, I I don't know. I think that's one of my big ones. There's a lot on their website that really helped me anyway.
It's amazing. It's amazing. In your perfect world, these are like last closing thoughts. In your perfect world, how do you wish people to respond to others who are having mental health problems?
Um, I want them to respond with compassion. I want them to take, I don't know, sorry. I want
Mm.
them to take a second, step outside of your own freaking ego and show some compassion. Because you don't know what they're facing, what's going on in their mind. I can't say how you should respond in every situation, but respond with compassion and at the end of the day.
Mm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Respond with love, compassion, and try to understand what other people are going through because you never know if someone else is struggling. Thank you so much, Jada, for sharing and telling us your story. I'd love to have you on another episode of the podcast. It was really enjoyable hearing you speak on all of these things. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. This was amazing.
All right. Shout out where we can find you on the internet. Where we can follow you.
So on TikTok and on Instagram, you can find me at I am okay music. It's IAM okay music. I'm a musician, a content creator, all that. But you can find my music too. Um, I have a song out on all platforms and some music coming out soon. But it's called Eat Your Soul, by Organized Chaos. And you spell it with a K because I am okay. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have everything linked in the description. So everybody, please check out the description. Please go follow Jada on all forms of social media. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Yay!
If you're watching us over on YouTube, here are our memes of the week, carefully curated by those amazing people, over on our Discord server. Now let's get into those memes. At the end of every episode, we spin our wheel of emotions to learn a new feeling and how it correlates to trauma. So let's spin this wheel, shall we? Interested, inquisitive. When it comes to things that I don't understand, especially when they pertain to trauma, I am intrigued completely, especially when it comes to neurodivergence brain. So, someone being neurodivergent and how they deal with trauma really intrigues me. I also have ADHD, so I think you would consider me neurodivergent. And I feel so intrigued whenever I'm learning about someone who perceives things differently than I do. It's really helpful to gain lots of different perspectives on trauma so that we can have more tools in our toolbox throughout life and be able to help more people or understand more people or connect with more people. Life is all about learning and growing and understanding and unlearning and growing and understanding and moving forward. And we're on our 60th episode. Guys, like, I never thought I'd be here, and yet I am. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing and I'm meeting you guys in public too, which is bizarre. That's crazy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy that we're creating a place where instead of isolating people who have trauma, we're bringing them in. We're loving on them. We're learning about them. And we're learning about ourselves and healing and growing together. That is an accomplishment. I want to commend you. And if you are over on our Discord server already, if you're a member with us over on there, which is free, it's anonymous peer support. If you ever want to join and you're not a member, I want to thank the members. I want to thank my Discord homies. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of the episode. That really helps us out a lot. If you feel compelled to, please like, subscribe, share the show. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show. That really helps us out a lot. Okay, guys? Remember, you are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise again from the ashes and be filled with peace, hope, love, joy, and understanding. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.